Okay.
And start. Can you do it?
Yeah, sure. Take one.
Oh, yeah.
Take one.
Hi, my name is Margaret Ying Drake, and I play Gloria in Love Express.
Hi, my name is Patrick Chen. I'm the writer and director of Love Express.
Hi, my name's Tim Liu, and I play Ryan in Love Express.
I am Chinese American. My dad's from Hong Kong. My mom's from China. Born and raised in Queens, New York, and been a filmmaker for 8 years.
I was born and raised in New York City, and my mother is from Hong Kong. My father's from England, but you know, I'm from here. And I've been acting in New York since I graduated college in 2007.
My Chinese name is Liu Jiadi. My parents are both from Taiwan, but I was born in New Jersey. I've been kind of doing the acting thing since I graduated, so maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe? 4 years? Yeah, 4 years.
Freshman college, I always had the notion of like, I want to do film, but I wasn't motivated enough to do it. Just, you know, go to school, you know, get a day job. And then finally it came about when I took a Chinese American class where my professor offered me to either do a 15-page paper or a 15-minute video. And I was like, oh, nah, I'll do the video because I don't want to write a paper and do the research. So it was just on a whim. I actually bought a Mac, bought a small $300 camcorder, went out there, did a little small documentary, enjoyed it a lot, that I wanted to, I guess, focus on the craft more, and I was trying to get better at it. And I didn't go to film school, so with each experience I had, I did on the field.
I've been belly dancing for about 5 years now professionally, 4 or 5 years, and it's great. I love it. It's something creative that I get to do in addition to the acting side.
Actually, we have a mutual colleague introduced us, Margaret, and from there, I guess we just been, you know, keeping in touch. And you know, I had this project lined up, and I was like, you know, maybe when it's ready, I'll hit you up, and we did. For Tim, it was actually provided by our wonderful casting director, Wayne Chang. He set out a what do you call it?
Casting call.
Casting call, thank you. And Tim came about, and I think it was like about 9 to 12 people show up, and I think Tim and this other actor made it to the final round, but we finally decided to go with Tim because yeah, he had a great charisma about him.
我们每天都坐火车到某个的地方，但我们从来没有停下来想一想，这火车会带我们去哪里？如果老天注定我们相爱，我当然不想下车。
Love Express is basically a film about a couple, or I guess 2 strangers in New York City who meet and kind of have this kind of misconnection. We don't know where they're going, but the film actually is homage to like Hong Kong cinema, and also tackles on, you know, human emotions and human connections about love and interaction. You know, because as subway commuters, we never know where those connections will take us. You know, because they might get off the next stop before it, stop after.
My character Ryan is kind of an unsuspecting young man on his way home, and he finds, like as the title suggests, love on this express train, and he's trying to make the internal external, I guess, in terms of expressing that emotion to a stranger, and it's about kind of the awkwardness and the courage that it takes, and the naivety that it takes to do it.
And when Tim came about, he was, I don't know, there's something about him. He was very quirky, very laid back and everything. But what really got my interest was actually his eyes, because there's a lot of voiceover in Love Express and very expressive. And I thought Tim could actually capture that with his, you know, facial and his eye expression, because there's a lot of close-ups to him. So I was like, hey, would you want to be part of it? And he was available.
I do think it definitely has some aspects of Tim, like real Tim in there, having that kind of like finding connections like that randomly. You know, I think everyone has that, which is why people can connect to the film, or why they like the film, for that purpose, because you can feel like, oh, I wish if I had the courage to do that, or if I could push myself to do that, then maybe I could have that kind of story.
My character in Love Express is basically representative of the times in life when you're going through something really hard, and sometimes the kindness of a stranger in the smallest actions can have a big impact on you, and how something like that can, just on a chance occurrence, end up changing the course of your life, or, you know, the way that you envision yourself and how you could be.
I mean, with Margaret, it was kind of easy because, you know, the camera really liked her a lot. You know, she's very mysterious and very elegant. And I was like, yo, camera likes you, you're in. If I can have you, you know, be part of this project, and she was available. Her character doesn't speak much except for one line, you know, because I want to keep her presence like very mysterious, and I wanted people to, I guess, use their imaginations, like who is this character? Because the whole point of having Margaret's character in the film was, I guess, make it very ambiguous, let the people's imagination take them to where this person is, because we don't, you know, there's a lot of strangers in the subways that we don't know about, you know, and I want to keep that essence of it.
Well, Patrick actually talked, like we met about this, discussing what my character is going through, because her background might not be something that I'm experiencing at the moment, like in life, as being so to the point of distress that you'd be crying on a train coming home from whatever it is, whatever kind of work she's doing, what kind of environment she's in that she's trying to, or that she's going home from, and just letting all these tears out on the train because it's so overwhelming to her.
Ying did a good job, because it was very difficult, because this time while we were shooting, we had to get that emotion, like Margaret crying or feeling depressed, so we had to like do it now before someone comes in. And she was really great, you know, like she actually got it on cue, and we actually got that shot the first or second take, you know. It
was kind of not becoming a different person necessarily, just focusing on one aspect.
Yeah, but working with these actors, you know, they're great, because not one complaint. They're just bulldozing it, you know, it's going through the process. Yeah, and especially in a chaotic scene that we have no control of, like we couldn't afford, you know, like $250,000 to rent a train or anything like that, you know. But you know, they actually were in the character. They knew that I had to take on multiple roles. I had to become the DP and the director, so they were very accommodating. I mean, I think without them, it wouldn't be a Love Express or the film.
Were there any other aspects than our good looks?
Any good looks?
Our obvious good looks.
No, I want to sell sex and, you know, all that stuff. That's how the Hollywood is.
This is what's gonna sell the movie.
No. It wasn't just appearance-wise, but it was just like how to, I guess, like Margaret said, most good definition was how to embrace that emotion. You know, like his character was internally, so he couldn't really express himself as much. So he expressed it really well with his eyes, and that's the reason why we cast him, because he kind of, to me, you kind of look like Li Ming. You had that expression, and that's one of the main reasons we cast you. And Margaret, you know, it's not just his look, but she can deliver it, because there are some actors out there who can't really portray that mysterious look and pull off beauty at the same time, you know, and she did it really well. I have to say, the camera does like you.
Well, I've shot on trains before, so I knew it was going to be difficult in a lot of ways and have very specific challenges, especially because we had to do it guerrilla style, where you do not have a permit, so it's all hiding from the police and from the MTA workers. Although usually when you come upon an MTA worker, they're just more excited about the fact that a film is being shot, so they're not going to bother you. But yeah, so I knew it was going to be interesting, and I, like I said, I've done it before, so it was something that I was like, sure, we can do this. All right. And the 7 train is kind of like, you've got to be a real New Yorker to ride on the 7 train, I feel like.
The 7 train is one of the most diverse. It's like the second Chinatown in New York City. So there's a lot of Asians, you know, and not just Chinese, but Koreans also riding the 7 train, you know. So I wanted to like, hey guys, this is a story about you guys, check it out. You know, maybe you felt that way one time in your life.
I remember when we were even Woodside walking to like the 7 train and stuff, we would see a lot of different, there was a church, there was a temple, and then there was a mosque, like all on that one road. And it's just kind of, for me at least, being that I'm Chinese American from, you know, Christian background, my dad's the pastor, right? Being able to see all these different people living in one area who have very different beliefs, but we live in Woodside, we're New Yorkers. And then that's what's really great about the film, I think, or the idea, or the concept behind the film is they all get on this train, all these different types of people, they have their, you know, separate destinations where they're going, but everyone still can relate to having that one experience of, oh, I saw that person on the train. Like there's this saying, I think I mentioned at some other interview, that like, you know, you're gonna, every time you get on the subway, you're gonna fall in love with someone across the platform, and then the train's gonna leave and you're never gonna see them again, because that's New York, right? That's how quick it moves. And I think that's kind of, with my background, having that kind of diversity, and then seeing the diversity here, and then being able to go on the train and seeing, you know, where people are coming at 3 in the morning, you know, and going. I think that's all kind of culminates into what the film is. I think that's why, at least for me, that's what I kind of see in it. Oh, thanks, buddy. Yeah, so that's kind of what I see in that, and from my point as a Chinese American.
There is a lot of repercussions in shooting in the train, doing guerrilla style, like no permits and no escorts by the police. So I think we were wrapping up the not last shot of the film, but the last shot of the day. And we had Margaret on Main Street, and there was I guess a pedestrian coming in the shot, so I put the camera down, and next thing you know, he said, "You took my photo." And it goes back to diversity and cultural background. Like, I don't know why, maybe it's his culture or something, his religion, but he was really on me. Like, he threatened me, like, grab my camera, try to like grab my shirt, and I just backed away because I didn't want to encounter with him. And after, I guess, a minute of arguing, I was like, "Hey, listen, dude, you know, I didn't film you. I don't need you, you know, in the film." So I was like, "Can you please walk away?" And he just gave me a dirty look. I mean, it's part of, you know, being a freelancer filmmaker, you know. And I saw them, they're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "I don't know, crazy people."
But also there's people that, like, if we were filming and we had the one corner that was actually empty and someone would come on the train and sit right in the shot, then, you know, sometimes Patrick would go over and ask them if they could mind moving and people were surprisingly accommodating.
Yeah, except for one guy, but it wasn't. He didn't speak any English at all. Because we asked him nicely, because he was Hispanic, and again, the 7 trade is really diverse. So when I was shooting, I forgot which one of them.
I was definitely there.
Yeah. So I asked him, "Oh, sir, can you please move?" He's like, no English." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Can you sit?" And I was just maybe sign language. "No, I don't." I'm like, "Oh, okay." You know, like I can't say anything, but you know, there's definitely a language barrier between passengers. I guess good production is having good people on set, and that's what we had. You know, I had these wonderful actors. I had a wonderful, you know, limited crew. Jerry, William, Donald, Janice. They were very supportive. Man, when you do short films, it's hard because you have to raise money, and then, you know, we're not rich or anything like that. So what we did was we did Kickstarter. You know, we did a personal crowdfunding. I asked for a certain amount, and we actually reached twice our goal. And all that support came from family and friends, even their family and friends who donated or just
strangers.
Yeah, and strangers. Yeah, don't get me wrong. And they were very supportive of the art or the story. They actually liked the story behind it, because it's like, oh, it's a subway. And they didn't even look at it as an Asian American. They just looked at, I like that story as is, because I used to ride the subway myself, and I want to be a part of that. And thanks to them, we were able to raise like about $4 grand to submit into film festivals. I was able to compensate their work, the talent that they provided. I say, if I could get the funding, I will, be happy to compensate your work, because they deserve it. I think anyone who willing to give their time needs to get paid or compensate in some sort of way. If it's not money, it's through exposure. And I think the process of writing Love Express, I had wonderful parents to help me out. Like my dad guided Chen to speak the Mandarin, because there was certain vocabulary in the film that I couldn't, just hit.
It's about syntax.
Yes, exactly.
Syntax, English syntax versus Chinese syntax is different, like verb agreement, order of verbs and subjects. So I think that for me, when you think as as ABC speaking Chinese, I think in English, and then when I say the Chinese, it'll be out of order sound because it's just different language.
Yeah, and we did 8 hours of ADR. Lucky you don't have to do that in Chinese.
It was I mean, it was just
8 hours.
I think the first translation, you kind of I don't know how you did it, like Google or something. Like, because the first one, like you gave the actual thing.
Oh yeah, Google Translation. It's kind of like.
It's like transliteration rather than translation. So then I brought it to my dad, and my dad helped rearrange some of the stuff what he thought would work, and then we went, and during the actual recording, your dad was on hand to like, well, the Chinese people don't really say that, like try to move this.
Slang.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
Because every generation, I guess the vocabulary builds up, not just English, but also Cantonese and Mandarin. There's a lot of slangs in that vocabulary. So my dad was saying, nah, Mandarin or people from Taiwan don't really say, I love you that way. They'll say it this way. And we're like, oh, really? So Tim and I, we actually learned something new.
Oh yeah, just sitting there like kind of like saying the lines over, trying to get the pronunciation correct. Because in my head, I'm so good at Chinese, but when my tongue, I'm really bad at it. It's just like my mouth forgets the shapes sometimes. But like in my head, I know what to say. It's just like actually getting it out is...
I mean, for what it is, I mean, you did a great job because I wanted to make sure Tim, it's not just the enunciation, but just the way he spoke it in the film, like very... I guess conservative, very gentle, and Tim delivered it because a lot of people can just say like very cutthroat like Cantonese, like "fana" or like, and I wanted Tim to say oh "fana," like very fluid and very soft spoken, and he did it.
So 我的父母是从台湾来的，可是我在美国生的。So my understanding， 我听的是听得懂，可是讲的是比较差。就是I speak the Mandarin, I can. My dad apparently can, like my parents, when their secret language is they speak Taiwanese together is when they don't want their kids to know, but they taught us all Chinese. So when they start talking Taiwanese, we're like, okay, what's happening? What's happening? But luckily, because I guess the reason we have retained some of it is because, you go to church and then we have the older generations Chinese speaking, the younger generations all kind of like me, ABCs. So we would have, they need people to translate sometimes, and my brother would do it all the time. That's why his Chinese is really good, and mine is like, eh.
I have people come up to me speaking Spanish and then get shocked when I don't speak Spanish. I also, as a belly dancer, I have people thinking that I'm Russian. I have people thinking I'm from Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkish. It's crazy. I do know that in my school it was like, other groups were very segregated, but mine in particular was kind of, there was no dominating race in my group of friends whatsoever. It was just a whole combo. Family was always really emphasized and made out to be, like when you grow up, it's not necessarily that you grow up and go off and do your own thing and, oh, I'm going to be successful and leave my parents. You kind of bring your whole family along with you in everything that you do. Like my sister was the one who paid my union dues to even, because back when I was first I was like, well, I need to join the union in order to do more work because I'm a must join, but I don't have this kind of money just laying around. And my sister was like, oh, here you go. And that's just kind of the way that my family is. Like we all are very close-knit and help each other, and whether we're doing well or doing not so well, like we're all in it together, and that's something that my mother always like. Remember the Joy Luck Club movie? Like, we're sisters, and I'm your mother, and we're always gonna have each other, and like no matter what happens with anybody else, it's us. So she always emphasized that. And my mother, with her parents, who they all came here back in the day, but then once their children were married, they actually went back to Hong Kong because they didn't speak English. They just felt more comfortable there, and like that's why I used to go to Hong Kong so much. Like I used to visit them every single year, and it was like one of my favorite places in the world. So it was just, even though I couldn't speak to my grandparents, it was that closeness and love that, without saying it, which I feel is also a very Chinese thing that my mother explained to me, that like Chinese people don't say a lot to each other in terms of like feeling love and emotion for their family, but it's the things that they do to show it that matters more.
Well, right now, Queen's World is on March 21st. They're going to be shown there. And then the following week, the last Sunday of March, it's going to be played at Asian on Films. And then from there, I think we're still hearing about 5 to 6 more film festivals. We just had a showcase with Enmay's Pictures back in February. They did a great job showcasing our film with 6 other short films. After the film festivals, I'm still working on other films. Him and I shot a short film, like 2 minutes long, in Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia one for PATH.
Yeah,
Philadelphia Asian American.
Yeah, at the Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival. To me, I always want to keep working because you don't want to lose that momentum. And the more you work or try to be more creative, the more you can collaborate with people like this, in the future. Because I think once you stop, things kind of starts getting slowing down.
There's a feature film that I was in that I just went to Slam Dance for in Park City that the director and I are working on another feature that we're starting to talk about the plot lines for that it's one of those things. You just, things come up and you never know like what the timeline is necessarily going to be, or you audition, constant auditions, and they'll call you up the day before and be like, we're shooting tomorrow, are you free? Oh, all right, clear my schedule, sure. What I really love about doing Love Express is being able to showcase basically Asian artists, Asian actors, Asian filmmakers, which is something that's really underrepresented in our society, and I feel like there's a glimmer of hope that it's starting to become more mainstream with shows like Fresh Off the Boat. The actors that we now see in the films on television and in the mainstream movie theaters, because growing up it's really hard when you don't have that kind of representation, that you try to find the people who are can look like you or represent you, or that you're familiar with the cultural background, the experience that is shared with people of your own heritage. So I hope that this is something that can continue to grow in our society and in America, and have more people of different, not just Chinese, not just Asian backgrounds, but all the underrepresented people could have a face that they can associate with and feel familiar with.
I guess what I would say is very similar to what Margaret's saying. I find being Asian in film or theater or things like that, my suggestion would always be get the training, do what you can in order to learn everything about it. Like anything in life, if you're going to be an engineer, you got to know everything about it, or work as hard as you can to know everything about it in order to put out the best product you can. And when you make these connections, when you meet people, and if you're in theater or film or engineering or being a doctor or construction worker, whatever you're doing, the people that you meet, life ends up being about people, and art ends up being about people. That's why we need the representation to represent me, or if I have kids, like represent them. So I really find that those connections that you make are what make Love Express and any other piece of art work.
Keep working really hard at what you want to do in life, because I think eventually it will pay off. Because I think no matter what's going to come about in the future, you're going to meet people that's going to help support you, either if it's friends or family. And also, if you want to just keep up to date with our film, you can also follow us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/LoveExpress, 1E. There we post up not just Love Express, but Tim's work, Margaret's work. We try to promote ourselves out there, and also show the status of the film and how it's doing.